there's no amount of thing that's going to make me stop doing the thing that I want to do and showing up for my audience and putting that out there. And it doesn't matter what opportunity they dangle for me. I'm going to do it because I want to do it.
I'm Charla Lauriston. I've been a TV writer for almost a decade, but it wasn't that long ago that quitting my day job and moving to Hollywood was nothing but a pipe dream. After lots of failures, many mistakes, and many lessons learned, I've now written for 7 TV shows, 2 features, and sold 3 TV pilots. I've done all this through imposter syndrome, burnout, and with zero roadmap. On the Working Writer podcast, I pull back the curtain on breaking in and teach screenwriters and creatives how to thrive both personally and professionally. Without further ado, let's get to work. What's up, and welcome to another episode of the Working Writer Podcast. Thank you so much for joining me once again. Today's episode, I'm welcoming Kerry Coddett. She is a writer, performer, and all-around entertainment powerhouse. Kerry and I get into a pretty interesting conversation this time around. We talk about control, which is something that so many of us creatives desire, aspire to, fight for, because when we have a sense of control over our careers, when we have that need for autonomy met, it can feel amazing. But not having that control can be so stressful and draining and discouraging. And in this episode, Kerry and I talk about how she has prioritized herself, having control over her work, and generally just doing what she sees best for herself and her career. It's a pretty interesting episode. And might I mention, I openly talk about the mistakes that I have made in my career when it comes to listening to reps versus listening to myself, not trusting my own gut, and kind of the consequences that I've paid for that. I want you to know that it was hard for me to be open about these kinds of things because, as I've mentioned on this podcast before, I'm someone who struggles with perfectionism. And being open about the mistakes I've made can sometimes be hard for me, but I think it's so important to talk about these mistakes so that you don't feel alone when you're navigating your career and your creativity. So I hope that this episode is useful and helpful to you, and I hope you learn from my mistakes. Without any further ado, here's my episode with Kerry Coddett. Before we jump into the episode, I wanted to let you know about a free guide I made for those of you out there struggling to get work done called How to Stop Procrastinating and Get in Flow with Your Work. A lot of you know me as a TV writer and comedian, but I'm also a productivity coach who helps creatives and solopreneurs overcome perfectionism and procrastination and find routines they can stick to so they can reach their life and career goals. If you've been struggling to finish that pilot, or if you've been overwhelmed and stuck in freeze mode, this guide will help you take those first steps into finally getting off the procrastination hamster wheel once and for all. Go to the link in the description and get your free guide to stop procrastinating and get in flow with your work. And now back to the show. Kerry Coddett, welcome to the podcast. I'm so excited to have you, darling.
I'm so excited to be had.
Kerry, I'm so curious about like your history and how you got into the entertainment industry. So like, let's start with where you're from. I think you're Caribbean, but I'm not 100% sure. So like, tell me the tea, like what's the story?
What? Yeah, I am Trinidadian and Guyanese from Brooklyn. I always got to leave with being from Brooklyn.
You do.
And being Caribbean.
You always do. Yeah.
Yeah, always got to leave with that. I think I've always just been a performer, always been entertaining since I was like the smallest of smallest, always doing accents, always acting, always dancing, always writing some shit, always forcing friends who came over to my house to like be a part of the play of the day or the choreography of the day. But you could never just come over to my house and think you just gonna chill and we gonna watch TV. It was TV, and that's why you guys came over, right?
Right.
That's it in a nutshell. I know there's a better version.
No, that sounds good. That sounds great. Did you go to any training or did you just start doing stuff?
A little bit of both. Like, I think when you are a professional actor, you realize that these bitches were really getting trained. And that is not my experience. I've gone to classes for as long as I can remember, but it was always like an after school thing or an extracurricular thing. And so I've always been in class getting training, but I'm not like classically trained in the way that
Wonderful.
actors are told to talk about it.
Okay. All right. And what about like for writing?
Uh, just a big student. And so before I do anything, I learned that I would like take a class or study it. So before I started stand up, I started doing improv first. And before improv, I was doing sketches. Before sketching, I was rapping. Okay, so that's how it started. Okay, boom. All right. Now I remember. Because I've always been driven by a need to tell a story. And just over the years, the medium has changed. So, like, in elementary and junior high, it was like short stories. Then in like high school, I was very much doing spoken word and clack, clack, clack. And then I was like, that shit's corny. Put a beat on it. Now you're a rapper. And so after rapping, I was like, oh, this is set up in punchlines. And I filmed like a music video parody video. And then I realized that I directed. I was like, this is a sketch. This musical parody, it's a sketch. So I want to take sketch classes. So I went to the UCB in the pit and I learned all the sketches and how to do that. And then I was like, oh, I love improv because I'm a performer. I don't really want to be stuck behind the pen. I also want to write and
Right.
perform. And so I started doing improv. And then improv led to stand up. And before I did stand up, I took a stand up class. So I think
Where did you
that's
take your
answered.
stand up class?
Caroline's.
Oh, how was that?
It was great. It gave me a deadline. It gave me a structure and some place I had to be. At the end of the 6 weeks or 8 weeks, you had to have 5 minutes and you had to invite your people to see it. And so I did that. And then I never stopped performing after then, except for the pandemic. I completely stopped, but you get the point.
I love that. So here's the thing for you. You always describe yourself as an entertainer, and I noticed that you've been describing yourself as that more and more. And I feel like as, writer performer or whatever, we always feel the need to do the hyphenated thing. We always feel the need to be like, I'm this. And you don't seem to be doing that. So like, where did that come from and what's it about?
I think that people are always trying to put you into a box. And I've never been good with boxes. And I'm someone who I've always been creative and I've always been driven by my need to perform and to entertain. And so, whether that's through acting or dancing or rapping or writing or telling jokes or designing clothes, like, don't tell me how to express myself. I'm all the things and I love it for me.
I love it. Um, what did I didn't know
I'm
you
not
were
in like,
designing clothes.
you didn't
Okay.
know that? Oh, yeah.
No. Yeah. What was your experience like going to like UCB in the pit? Because I feel like for a lot of black performers, it's a very specific, particular kind of experience.
It sure was. I started at the pit, and I remember my first improv class at the pit. Everybody was talking about how they couldn't get into the UCB. They're like, we couldn't get into the class, or I tried, but it was too cutthroat. And I was like, oh, I need to be at the UCB. I was like,
I
no shame, but y'all
remember
saw. I was
thinking
like,
the same thing.
really? You had the same thing? I was like, I had never even heard of the UCB, but everybody kept
Yeah.
talking about it, and it had this
Yeah.
reputation. I was like, I think I'm in the wrong class. I think I
Right.
need to be in the But when I got to UCB, I was like, I'm fortunate in that I have had a very Black experience my whole life. Like elementary school, I
Mm.
went to a Caribbean elementary school. Everything, even in high school, it was a little bit more diverse, but it was still like blackety, blackety, black. And so to be in UCB, I was like, first of all, where did you find all these white people in New York? I did not, that's not the version of New York that I've ever seen. But also, it was like, what I learned is that improv is on some if you know shit, right? Like somebody initiates a scene and it relies on the scene partners to actually know what they're talking about, to have understood the references and to have seen the things. And so when I tried to play with other improvisers, I was like, oh, we're not even speaking the same language, we're not in the same scene. And so that was a little bit interesting until I found my group. I was a part of a all black, all woman of color improv group called Affirmative Action. And then I wrote this sketch that I thought was so great. It was like so great. And for one of my assignments, and the teacher, who, by the way, we're big time friends now. He's a big fan of my comedy now. God bless him. But when I was a student, he was just like, I don't get this. And I was like, well. And then the last thing, since you brought it up, is I remember submitting my sketches to be on, I think they did like a sketch team. I forgot. It wasn't Maud. It was some other sketch, whatever sketch team UCB did. And I got through all the steps, all the written shit, my sketches passed. And the last step was like a survey to like figure out what team to place you on. And the survey was like, what is your sketch writing style? Is it SNL Dana Carvey years? SNL Norm Macdonald years? They had like 5 different SNL time frames. Then they had Monty Python. Then they had Kids in the Hall. They didn't put Key and Peele. They didn't have Chappelle Show. There was no Mad TV. There was no In Living Color. I was like, and then they sent me a rejection letter and was like, oh, sorry, we don't have a place for you because your style doesn't fit based on how I filled out the questionnaire. So after that,
this
I was like,
UCB?
UCB, girl.
I don't remember this being a part of UCB at all. I
never of the sketch, kind of whatever the sketch, they had like the different sketch groups that you. Yeah.
Oh, this was, you were applying for a sketch group?
For a sketch group, yeah.
Oh, okay.
On the official house team.
Oh, I see. No. I didn't do that.
Because you were smarter than I was. So, this is not for me.
Oh my God. Maybe they need some DEI training. All I've been hearing about is DEI.
Really? Because all I've been hearing is that DEI is done and no one gives a fuck. And
I know.
It's a wrap.
I know, but I have a sneaky suspicion that, here's my prediction. This is crazy. If Trump wins and there's like this resurgence of white supremacy, or like this insurgency of white supremacy into the structures of our country, I think like the Democratic side, the people who are left leaning are gonna be like overcompensating with a lot of fucking DEI. That's what I think.
I have a different prediction.
Tell me, what's your prediction?
I think that over the course, I think that the George Floyd amplified diverse voices thing, I think that was the peak. I think all of our shows have already gotten made. If you look, all of the Black shows have pretty much gotten canceled or not been renewed. When the affirmative action ruling got rolled back in the Supreme Court, they basically told the rest of the country that we don't give a fuck about DEI. And so you can't get mad at the networks for not having Black people when the Supreme Court said it don't matter. So I don't know what you want me to do. I'm just Netflix. I'm Amazon. Meanwhile, I just came off a strike where this is me pretending to be the producers in the studio.
Sure.
I just came off a strike. I lost all these money. Right now, all of my content is going to be geared towards middle America because most people in this country are still white and I need to make money. And we just told the world that we don't give a fuck about DEI. That's why they let go all of the DEI hires and Netflix and all those people. They're gone. Ain't no DEI, bitch. What you need to do is find a white partner so that you could get something made now.
Sorry. You might not be wrong. You know what I mean? I feel like maybe my prediction is a more hopeful prediction.
I love that.
You might totally be right.
Because we just had that. We literally just had that.
We just had that, and here's what happened. Like, everybody decided that, you know, they weren't going to ride this train. Like, they weren't going to get on the train of DEI. As a matter of fact, we're going to get on the train of DEI until this movement dies down, and then we're going to get off the train and save some money or whatever. But I don't know. I just kind of think that, I don't know. I kind of feel like America doesn't get what they've signed up for, but maybe they do. And I'm just, you know,
I love you.
Naive.
I think Vancouver of it all has systems.
Maybe I'm naive. I'm naive.
On your disposition, right there, with the boots on the ground.
The boots on the ground, girl. The boots are on the ground. Yeah.
What you talking about? Blackity black. Nobody cares. Pack it up.
They don't give a shit. They don't give a shit. Well, let's talk about more hopeful things. Because you're probably right, honestly.
Hopeful?
Huh?
Did that not sound hopeful?
Like, no. It sounds like it's worse than it was, you know?
I don't know. I guess we'll
Yeah.
see. It's one of those things that only time will tell. But regardless, I have decided that I'm going to take control over my career, and I can't like let the trends dictate one way or the other the things that I want to do and the things that I want to make. And so I think that
Well,
keeps
that's
me
always been
healthy.
true. Yeah, it's always been true that we can't let trends dictate our career. So what are you like how is your, I guess, work changing when you made that decision?
Um. Well, I don't know that the work is changing, but I know that the goal is changing. For instance,
Oh,
before I used to make all this stuff and I would have like a really good proof of concept and I would invite all the reps in the studios to come to whatever, let's say it was a late night show, for instance. I would have a great idea and I would do it and I would tape it and I would invite them, and then somebody would be like, I'd love this show, I would like to enter a deal to develop it. And so I would enter into development deal with some pod, and I would stop making the show. I would cease to do it live and bring it direct to my audience, thinking that some studio is going to give me money to make the thing. You're in development hell for about 18 months. They don't get you, you don't get them, or whatever. It's just the nature of the business and how it works. And then 18 months later, you don't have a show and you've stopped doing the thing that you said that you loved. And so now I'm still making that show. And what it looks like to me is there's no amount of thing that's going to make me stop doing the thing that I want to do and showing up for my audience and putting that out there. And it doesn't matter what opportunity they dangle for me. I'm going to do it because I want to do it.
that's such a huge revelation. I feel like we all have it at different points in our career where we realize that you just have to keep doing the thing because no matter what happens, no matter what happens, you lose a certain part of the control of the thing once you enter into any kind of like partnership with something with someone. And I feel like I didn't realize that that was really really important to me. It's super important to me to have a sense of control, to have a sense of like I want to direct this thing, I want to lead this thing, and it can get really muddled and muddied when other people get into the situation. um but yeah, that's a word right there. uh
100%.
Keep doing the thing even after they say they want it because you don't never
Doing
know.
it if and when it happens. But in the meantime, this
Yes.
is my show. I'm going to keep
Yeah.
making the show. And guess what? When you have a proven, if it all goes the way it's supposed to go, which nothing does, so take that with a grain of salt. But if you have a proven track record of success for doing the thing this way, then it's
Yeah.
a harder case for somebody to come in and be like, this is what you should do. This is what you should do. Well, I've been doing it this way for the last 5 years and I've built it. I've built an audience. I've built a brand. I've done it to the point where you're now interested in it. So maybe what I'm
Yeah.
doing is working. And so you have a little bit more leverage if and when that point does come.
Right. um I'm really interested to ask, because it sounds like you are somebody who is, you know, you've done your best to try to like to be in the industry and to do the things that we're all told that we're supposed to do. But it sounds like you're kind of like, that's not working. I need to go my own way. And one of the ways that you've gone your own way is your sister is your manager. And she's been your manager for quite some time. And I want to ask, like, what made you make that decision, and what has that experience been like?
My sister managing me.
Yeah.
I don't know that I ever made that decision. It was kind of made for me. Have you met my sister?
Did you have a rep?
No, so honestly, my sister has been my right hand my entire life. Like she was the first person. I had an agent since I was 9, and it was her telling my mother, "There's something wrong with this girl, and I think we could make money off of it." And so somebody needs to see this girl. She keeps doing these voices. She keeps forcing me to sit down and listen to her poems and read the short stories. And I think
Oh
that
my god.
so my sister has always been a big part of anything that I've ever done in life. She has been my partner in it. And so we came into this. It's interesting because now we're just going back to the thing that we've always done. We came into this industry untraditionally, doing the things that people said could not be done in a way they said it couldn't. Every single thing that I started off doing, they were like, oh, no one does it. No one does it that way. And we were like, well, we're new here and we don't give a shit. This is what we're called to do. This is what we can do. Like, we started by making a web series, and I made a full sketch comedy web series. I had a cartoon. It had all of these different format. Girl, I'm still paying American Express bill for that web series. But it led to so much work and so much things after. It was just great to have. And so when I first started, I think I went after Caroline's. I think the teacher had like a relationship with some manager, and he was looking for talent for an MTV show, and she was like, oh, there's this girl in my class. And so I went on like 2 or 3 generals with MTV, and I guess they liked me so much that the guy was like, I think I need to meet you because I'm getting good feedback. And so I met him, and he was like, I would like to be your manager. And I was like, well, I have a manager. She's my sister. And he was like, well, if she cares about your career, she will let a professional comedy manager manage you. And I was like, well, she's my sister. So y'all are either going to co-manage and figure out how to work together, but there's no scenario in which she's not my manager.
Oh,
and
shit.
that co-manage situation probably worked for maybe 6 months, but my sister outmanaged them. And so I'm like, I'm just going to stick with her forever now. And that's it. There's nothing that
What did she do? How did she outmanage them?
She's just so sharp. She's so sharp and she's so smart, and she approaches things the way that I think when you've been doing a thing for a long time and you people have a way that they do things. These people that have been in the industry for 10, 15 years, well, this is typically how it goes. You got to do this, you got to do this. And when you're new to it, you're not beholden to those things. You go, oh, what's the need? How can I fix it? And so she has just always approached things way differently than everybody else. And I love it. She's a fucking beast.
I think that that's such a real thing about the industry. I don't know if it's because I'm an immigrant, because I'm Black. I don't know what it is, but there is this sense that this is how things are supposed to be. And I always wonder, like, are you aware that that doesn't even work anymore? Sometimes I just want to like ask whether it's a rep or a producer or like whoever, a pod or whatever, like a comedy person, like a lot of the things that they say to do, like I literally was just thinking about this example recently, was my comedy album that I released a few years ago. And I wanted to release it independently, but like everybody told me not to do that. Like my reps, like everybody, like they told me not to do it. They said that, I would be much better off going with a label. And girl, so I can see with my eyes that the friends that have released their albums on these album labels don't do anything. Like their albums don't do anything. Those labels don't do anything with their albums. They don't really promote them, blah blah blah. And then so I decided to listen to my reps, even though I was like, I'm pretty sure that I can see that this doesn't work. But I was just like, all right, maybe they know something that I don't know, since everyone's on the same accord and everybody's telling me to do it this way. And of course, what happens? Exactly what I thought was gonna happen. Like exactly what I thought was gonna happen. They don't do anything with your album. As a matter of fact, I ended up owing them money for like my album, because they recorded it, like they brought their recording devices and things like that, and they charged me for that. And I was just like, it's just a bunch of like, I guess snake oil salesmen. I don't know how to say it, but like I'm just like, you guys don't know anything. So wow, I keep repeating this shit on this podcast. I feel like somebody's gonna come for me.
Well, then they should know something. Then they should start to know. You know what it is? I think the thing is that no one knows anything. None of us. Everyone is making shit up as they go along, and everyone should just be honest about the fact that it's a crapshoot. There's no one right way to do it. And even though we are in a creative industry, I'm seeing how much people lack creativity, to be honest. They're not really being creative thinkers, and everybody just wants to keep their job. And so stepping outside of that means that you got to take a risk. And who's taking a risk on Charla Lauriston? Who's taking a risk on Kerry Coddett? Like, nobody wants to be that guy. So we're going to do exactly what we've always done, and I'm going to keep my fucking job. And if you don't like it, Charla and Kerry, y'all could go do your own podcast and release on Spotify yourself. Good luck to you.
Right. Which is what we're
doing. Which is what we're doing. Thank you.
It really is like the lesson that I learned over and over and over and over again, that like if you have a strong sense of direction and you have a strong value system about like how you believe things should be done and how you want them to be done, you're probably better off doing it by yourself. Because if when people come in and they have these different opinions and they have these other ways of telling you to do it, it's just like, you know, as a new person, as a newbie, I really questioned myself. But now, of course, I have that same, like, yeah, nobody knows anything and you guys don't know. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. All right. Let's take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about what you're working on now.
Okay.
And we're back.
Whoa.
So, what are you working on now, Kerry Coddett?
What am I not working on? So right now I am finishing up my last week in a drama room. I'm writing on my very first drama for Apple TV, and I'm very excited about that. Because as a comedy writer, I think that we're often put into these boxes again. You're a comedy writer, you have a comedy sample. If you're a drama writer, you need a drama sample. You can never get a drama job with a comedy sample. None of that's true. Got the same ass comedy sample, got me the comedy
Get the
job,
fuck out.
got me the drama job, same ass sample that got me my first offer to buy my show. And so it's like if you have a really good story and you're a great writer, it doesn't really matter whether tonally it's a comedy or a drama. If you know how to tell a story and you know good characters and great storytelling and all of that, that you can do that. So I'm doing that. The room is done this week, and what I'm excited about is the projects that I'm doing for myself. And so, Charlotte, I will tell you one thing that you have inspired me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I sold a TV show, and
Yeah.
I got my rights back, and
Shit.
now I'm going to make my show myself.
Oh,
I'm
shit.
producing my own web series because it is burning to get out of me. And I know
Yeah.
that if I put it out, one, it is going to bring me so much joy to tell this story that is mostly autobiographical, but it's been in my heart and on my spirit for at least a decade now. And so I
Yeah.
just do that. So I'm passionate about that. I'm gonna raise the money. I'm gonna invest in myself. I'm gonna Tyler Perry this bullshit. If I don't, you know what, too? I think that, and people, again, people told me, no, let somebody else pay you to write it. Let somebody else pay you. And it's like, why would anybody take their hard earned money or whatever the fuck, however they get their money, and invest in me if I'm not willing to invest in myself? That's one. And two, once they give you the money, they own you now. And now you are beholden to their vision of your project. And I owe it to myself to see what it would look like if I'm just making the show I want to make with my friends, with the people I want to make it with, and see what that looks like. So I'm excited about that. And I'm also doing my one woman show. Another thing that has been on my spirit for at least 10, 15 years, but I smoked some
Oh,
real good weed
wow.
during the pandemic, and I had an epiphany. I woke up out of my bed, like I was sleeping, I swear to you, Charlotte. And I woke up like this. Was like, and I just kept writing. And then I wrote a letter to my sister because at this point it's like 10 in the morning now. I'm up.
Mhm.
And I wrote a letter to my sister and I said, mark my word, this story is going to change our lives. And I don't want to wake you up now because you're sleeping, but you need to know. And I'm writing it down
Mhm.
for accountability. And I dated it and I slid it under her door. And so I'm working on that this summer, asaptually. I'm very excited about that. And then stand up.
Holy shit.
Gotta start doing stand up again more
Right.
aggressively. I have a lot of things to say. Taking the break was really, really good for my body, my mind, and my spirit. And now I'm ready to hit the stage with a fucking vengeance. So that's what we're doing.
Okay, I have so many questions.
Yes, punch and
First
release,
about
baby. Iconic. Let's let it be said. If you was ahead of your fucking time and you did that, and look at how many doors it opened for you.
100%. Yeah,
And look,
a
okay,
hundred percent.
that's all I just
I
want to
appreciate
say.
you, homie. I appreciate you, homie. Wow, the industry has really burned me. um, so this one woman show, what is the plan for it? Are you planning to take it to like Edinburgh, or are you like trying to tour it? Like, what are you doing?
So again, those are the plans for it, right? But I know that the traditional route may or may not be exactly the way. So my plan right now is to put it up and make it the best show that it can be, and then probably film it and get some producers and some attachments And then, yeah, they say Edinburgh is a thing to do, but just to get the reps in. Um, and so I'm exploring all of those avenues. Like, where do you put the shit up at? And I want to go to different theaters. And so we're doing research now. I have to do more research on the actual theater track. So I don't got all the answers for you yet. We've been having meetings. The team has a document. I ain't read it yet because I ain't finished writing the show. But I'm very much trying to not be so focused on the end result. What happens with it? So how I'm thinking about it is my job is to create. That's what I'm going to do. That's what I'm called to do, and let the people that take their percentage help me figure out how to market it, how to strategize, what to do with it, what connections. But I gotta do my part of the thing first, which is create the
Right.
thing and make sure that it's undeniable. What
Right.
happens
Right.
with it
Right.
after trial?
Yeah.
Nothing may ever happen, and I will have just guided it out, and I'll be happy and
Okay.
move on to the next thing.
Okay. Because that's really what I'm asking is like, what do you want to happen?
What I would in the perfect world, I'll take this thing, I'll get a special like every other fucking body else. Okay, because why not? We're good enough. Get a special. I also
Yes,
have
we are.
ideas on how to adapt it to a half hour and also a book. And it could also be a
Hmm.
movie. So it has all these different legs. And I don't know where it will go. So I'm just falling in love with the process.
I love that for you. I love that for you. You're so smart to fall in love with the process. Um,
We don't got no control over the
we
result.
don't. The process is all we got.
It really is.
So many. You're speaking a word today, Kerry Coddett. The process is all we got.
Truly.
It really is. So you took a break from stand up. I didn't know that.
Girl, I took the biggest break. Like pandemic, I was like, so it was tempting, right? It was tempting to just keep creating and to be online and be on live. And I was like, this feels like a once in a lifetime opportunity for me to shut the fuck up,
Hmm.
for me to take a moment and stop just throwing things out into the universe and into the ether and actually listen. I've spent my whole life talking, and the pandemic was the first time I was like actually quiet. I got really introspective. I started thinking about, what do I even want to say to the world? What, yeah, I'm funny. So much of our first 10 years of doing comedy is, can I write a joke? Am I funny? But now it's like, what do you have to say besides being funny? What's the purpose? Is it like, so I stopped sharing my opinions on everything. Who cares what I think about Will Smith's slap? Who cares? Why is my voice the most important voice? Like, who cares? What do you have to say? And so I really just sat down during the pandemic and worked on myself and learned who I was and just meditating. I just did a whole lifestyle change, and stand up was feeling, it was feeling like, what am I even talking about? Do I care about this? Like, yeah, I could make a joke about this, but like, who cares? Like, I didn't care
Yeah.
about what I was talking about. So I just took
Yeah.
a, I took a break. And also I think that the way that they have taught us to think about stand up is not helpful. This whole, you girl, okay. This whole, which is fine, right? But I think, which is fine. I haven't said what I'm talking about. This
Hmm.
stay on stage, you got to stay on stage all day, every day, stay on stage. And I was like, okay, to what end though? Because you
Yeah.
could stay on stage every night, but all you're doing is cementing your bad habits, cementing the fact that you say, and I feel like, you know what I mean? Like, you also have to be critical and intentional when you're on stage. And it felt like I was just doing a bunch of shows, and yeah, I could do 10 shows a week, but for what, to what end, and why? So I took a long break, and I love doing stand up now. I've always loved doing stand up, but I don't think I can go back to doing it in the same way. Like, your girl be up at 5:30 a.m. So coming home at 2, 3 a.m. hanging out, that's not conducive for me. Sundays, I no longer do shows on Sundays because I need Sundays to like do house shit and to reset and plan my week. And so I'm very specific about the shows I do, when I do it, what I'm trying to get out of it. Like, I'm specifically trying to work out this thing, or I'm trying to get like, but the days of me just fucking around to be funny every single night, I can't do that anymore. So it's true. I think the hardest part, you didn't ask, but I'm going to tell you, because you're
Tell
going
me.
to come back out here, or you're not.
Hmm.
Let me not project. But should you return to stand up, the hardest part for me was talking to other stand ups, because, oh, where you been? I took a little break, I'm back. Here's what you should do. Or there's like all this projection of like, how it should be. And I'm just like, I'm not complaining. I don't know where I said that I'm very happy with how I live. I'm very happy. You should be at the cellar. I've never once out loud said that this is something that I desire, or not saying that I don't or I do, but it's just like, don't put those words in my mouth and don't put those expectations on me. So
Mhm.
that's where I am.
All right. Wonderful. Um, how did you get so sure of yourself?
That feels like a trick question. There's no way to answer that question.
Gary, cracking me
uh,
up. No, you need to
uh,
stop playing.
I
Have you
think
always operated this way, or is this, you know?
I think my sister and I have always been on some everybody else doesn't know what they're talking about. And
Mm,
not in a condescending way at all, just in the you can't force me to see the world the way you want. Like I remember early, because you remember I went to all black school, it was all Caribbean. We had kente cloth on. So it's very pro black, pan African. Look at me with my big African ring. It's like, I'm still the same girl. But I remember people being like, you dark skinned, you got big lips, like you look like you from Africa. And I was like, those all sound like good things to me.
yeah.
And I remember
Hmm.
from a very early age not buying. I'm like, I don't buy that. I don't buy that this is ugly. And so I don't. And so very early on, I've been able to call people's bullshit. Like I don't believe that that's true. And you can't make
Right.
me change my mind. So
Right. Wow. Very different upbringing we've had.
how was it for you? And you have a twin. So there were
I do
two of
have
you.
a twin.
You have a
Yeah, there are
partner
two of us.
also.
I do. But from the earliest memories, we've not really operated like partners. Like even when we were in school, I used to have a joke about this, about how like I was so awkward in middle school, how and my sister was super popular and she would sit with the popular kids and I would not. So we've always just had very different, lives, it feels like. Even though we're twins, we're just very different. But I also grew up with a Haitian mom who was very like who had some internalized anti-blackness, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, because of the whole like skin lightening thing in Haiti and like, I'm
And
always too
everywhere.
dark, get out of the sun everywhere, and all that other stuff or whatever. It definitely took until adulthood for me to be like, my skin is totally fine. As a matter of fact, it's gorgeous and it's, but that took quite a long time. Um, but damn, look at what happens when you don't have to grapple with that. Wonderful. That's fantastic. That's fantastic. Um,
About to fight though. I also told
sure.
people to shut the fuck up a lot, and then I
Right.
got sure of myself because I learned how to whoop ass. So that's the
Right. Right.
B side of it, is that you got to be able to defend. This position requires people always trying to knock you down and always trying to break your spirit. And so for a
Yeah.
long time, I was very defensive. And so now I'm more just like, whatever, you can believe what you want, and I don't need you to see things my way. But before, it wasn't necessarily like that.
100%. You're so wise, Kerry Coddett. I really think you really are. I'm so happy to see where you are at this stage in your career. Very, very cool stuff that you're working on. I wonder like what has been like a big lesson that you've learned in your career. I mean, you've talked about some, but like are there any others that you've learned that you think have really shaped your current mindset?
Yeah. Um, I think focusing on what you can control has been the biggest thing in my career and in my life that changed so much of the way that I was approaching the world. So it changed the way that I thought about what I deserved or what I felt entitled to. Um, and I think that that just changed the game, because you grow up, especially in this industry, there's a way, you pay your dues and this is supposed to happen. There's no such thing as paying dues unless you talk about the IRS. There is no amount of money that you can pay or amount of sweat and blood and hard work that you can put in that now is like, okay, you've done these and now you get this thing. That whole shit is a fallacy. It's not real. And so I've just focused on what I can do. Am I working as hard as I can work? Am I, and also working smart, not hard, not just working for the sake of working to say I'm busy, not doing busy work and being intentional, but also like during the strike, for instance, I know I was annoying my writer friends because they were like, "But you are toxically positive." But I was like, we could sit down and sure, money was hard. Girl,
Yeah.
my last unemployment check ran out the week this job started. So I
Oh,
was
praise
so
God.
grateful. Pray
Yeah.
hallelujah, because I was about to start doing something strange for the change. But I remember being like, I could sit here and be worried about when jobs are going to come back and what it's going to look like, or I can use this time to write a new sample or attempt to write a new sample or come up with new ideas and go back on stage and start doing shows again. Like, and that was the best that I felt. And it feels like when I put myself in the driver's seat of my career and I focus on what I can do, that's been the best thing instead of waiting for somebody to give me a show and then take the show away or to dangle this and then take it away. Instagram wants to give you these followers and then they shadow ban you. You don't let nobody see your shit. Well, you know what I got now? A fucking mailing list. That's what. So now I got your email. So when Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg and TikTok goes away, I can still reach my people directly. And so that's my biggest advice or lesson. You didn't ask for advice.
Yeah. Well, what is your advice then?
That do just that. I don't know. I think we have to stop thinking that people owe us some shit. That because we're funny or because we're smart or because we've been doing it 10 years, that it automatically means don't nobody give a fuck. No one cares. No one cares. No one owes you anything. So just that's all I got.
I love it, Kerry Coddett. You're so wise.
I love that you always say my first and last name.
I don't
And I
know why I do
Zach
that.
Morris from by the Bell. You know what I mean?
Did people say Zach Morris's full name?
I feel like they did.
Oh yeah, I don't know. I don't remember that.
Because I
Yeah.
don't remember Screech's last name at all. I
No,
remember
nobody knows Screech's last name.
no,
What about Lisa?
Lisa Turtle,
Lisa Turtle.
Jesse Spano, AC Slater. Screech didn't have a last name. That's crazy, yo. Why
What
would they
is Screech's
like
last
that?
name? They played
They
Screech. Oh my god. Oh my god. Well, what a revelation to have at the end of the interview. I love it. Screech had no identity on
Yeah,
Saved by the Bell. Unbelievable. Well, thank you for joining the show, Kerry. It was a pleasure to have you.
thank you for having me. I love talking to you, and I miss you.
I miss
I
you
want to
too,
say that
lady.
on the record. Is this going to make the cut?
Yeah, I will.
We miss Charla.
Well, I hope you got a lot out of that episode and hearing me talk about my mistakes and hearing Kerry talk about how she and her sister have really done so much to be in control of their careers. And I hope you take away from it that it's always up to you to be in control, to take a stand, to take a lead over not just your career, but your creative life, your work, and your goals. You don't need to have somebody else there, like a manager, like an agent, to direct your career. Because even when they do get there, they're still going to be looking at you to see which way you want to go. That's all I've got for today. Until next time, get out there, get to work.